Greetings, weary travelers. I stand before you as your tale spinner, about to plunge you into the icy depths of my most haunting experience. An experience that rattled my bones, cleaved my reality, and still makes the blood freeze in my veins. This is no ordinary flickering campfire ghost fable. It's an account of a bone-chilling ordeal extracted from the shadows of my own existence. Our narrative unfurls in a crumbling manor, perched ominously on an undistinguished lane known as Willow Street. A house that whispers silent tales of phenomena that twist the laws of nature, of incidents that would force even the stoutest hearts to quiver in dread. This forsaken mansion, with its weather-beaten walls and desolate rooms, bore the weight of unending mysteries. From possessions that evaporated into thin air to eerie echoes that resonated in the silent hours. From dreams that bore the stain of dread to the constant prickle of unseen eyes surveying every move, this house was a vortex of spectral riddles, yet our tale does not conclude here. Desperate to unravel these enigmas, I dared to dive into the spectral realms, a journey that held equal parts revelation and terror. This narrative weaves not just a ghostly tale, but a chronicle of an experience that toppled my world into darkness. It's a lurking shadow that forever lingers, waiting to shroud us all in its terrifying grip. The tale begins when I moved into an old, dilapidated house on Willow Street. Now, this wasn't your average run-of-the-mill house. No, this house had a story to tell. From the outside, it looked like a relic of a bygone era, worn down by the merciless hands of time. The paint was peeling, the roof was caving in, and the once vibrant garden was now overgrown with weeds. As I stepped onto the creaky porch, I could feel the weight of the house's history pressing down on me. It was like stepping into another time, another world. But it wasn't the dilapidated state of the house that unsettled me. No, it was something else. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It was a feeling, a sense of dread that hung in the air like a thick fog. I remember the first time I opened the front door. The hinges groaned in protest, the sound echoing through the empty house. The inside was as rundown as the outside, with dust-covered furniture and cobwebs in every corner. But it was the silence that got to me. It was a heavy, oppressive silence, the kind that makes your skin crawl. I started moving my belongings into the house, each box echoing through the empty halls as I set them down. But even as I started to fill the house with my things, it felt empty. Not in a physical sense, but in a way that's hard to describe. It was like the house was holding its breath, waiting for something. Throughout the day, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. It felt like I was being watched, like there were eyes on me at all times. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind outside sent a shiver down my spine. But despite the unsettling atmosphere, I was determined to make this house my home. I told myself that it was just the stress of moving, that I was imagining things. I was wrong. From the moment I crossed the threshold, a chill ran down my spine. Call it intuition or whatever you want, but I knew something was amiss. At first, it was trivial incidents. Objects would vanish only to reappear in bizarre places. You know, the kind of oddities you brush off as absent-mindedness or the result of a long, tiring day. But as days turned into weeks, these occurrences became more frequent, more inexplicable, and decidedly more unsettling. Picture this. You place a mug on the kitchen counter, turn around to grab the coffee pot, and when you look back, the mug is gone. You search high and low, only to find it nestled on the top shelf of the bookcase in the living room. Or imagine setting down your keys on the hallway table only to find them later chilling in the fridge next to the leftover pizza. But it didn't stop at disappearing objects. No, not at all. The house seemed to have a life of its own. Doors would slam shut with a force that would make you jump out of your skin. And no, it wasn't the wind. The windows were shut tight, and there was no draft to speak of. And then there were the footsteps. Soft, stealthy footsteps, like someone trying not to be heard. They would echo through the empty rooms, a ghostly reminder that I was never truly alone in the house. It was as though the very walls were alive, whispering secrets in a language I couldn't understand. But the most unnerving part? The whispers. Their words always remained indiscernible, but they never failed to send shivers down my spine. It was like a hushed conversation, always just out of earshot. I could never quite make out what they were saying, but the tone was eerie, filled with an urgency that made my heart race and my palms sweat. The house on Willow Street was not just a house. It was a living, breathing entity, filled with strange phenomena that defied all logic. And as I lived there, amidst the whispers and the moving objects, I began to realize that I was a guest in its world, not the other way around. As if the peculiar incidents during the day weren't sufficient, the nightmares started soon after I moved in. Night after night, I found myself caught in the grip of terrifying dreams. They were so vivid, so real, that every morning, I woke up questioning the boundaries of reality. In these dreams, I was always alone in the house, shrouded in an inky darkness that seemed to swallow up the light. The silence was deafening, but it was the type of silence that was loud, the type filled with anticipation, like the calm before a storm. I could feel the air around me pulsating with an unseen energy, a presence that was both foreign and eerily familiar. Then the whispering would start. It was the same indistinct murmur that I heard during the day, but in the darkness of my dreams, it was amplified, echoing through the emptiness of the house. I would try to decipher the words, straining to understand, but they always slipped away, leaving me with a sense of dread that was impossible to shake off. As the whispers grew louder, a figure would begin to materialize in the darkness. It was a shadowy form, shapeless and yet somehow defined. It seemed to be watching me, its presence looming over me like a specter. The figure never moved, never spoke. It just watched, its silent scrutiny more terrifying than any nightmare creature. Each night the figure would appear closer, its shadowy form becoming more distinct, more menacing. With every dream, the sensation of being watched intensified, and I could feel its gaze piercing through me, as if it was trying to reach into the very core of my being. I would wake up drenched in a cold sweat, feeling like someone or something was watching me. There was this figure, shrouded in darkness, always lurking at the periphery of my vision. Despite the fear, despite the terror, I knew I had to face whatever was haunting me. I couldn't let these dreams, these nightmares, control my life. But little did I know the worst was yet to come. I couldn't bear it any longer. I needed answers. That was my mantra as I sought out a paranormal expert, someone who could potentially shed some light on the unexplainable happenings in my home. I was desperate for understanding, for a way to confront the fear that was gnawing away at me, both day and night. I remember the day I met the expert. He had an air of calm about him, a tranquility that seemed entirely out of place considering the circumstances. I suppose in his line of work, you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. He listened intently as I recounted my experiences, the whispers, the moving objects, the chilling figure in my nightmares. He agreed to help me, to delve into the heart of the mystery that was my home on Willow Street. He suggested we conduct a seance, a way to reach out to the entity that had been disturbing my peace. I was apprehensive, yes, but I was more afraid of living in constant fear. I needed to face whatever was haunting me, to seek answers from the source itself. The seance was an experience like no other. We sat in the very heart of my home, the room where most of the strange occurrences had taken place. The expert guided me through the process, his voice steady and reassuring as we reached out to the unknown. I won't lie to you, it was terrifying, but it was also strangely liberating to confront the unseen, to demand answers from it. And so there we were in the dimly lit room, calling out to the entity, asking it to reveal itself, to explain its purpose. We sat in silence, waiting for a response, our hearts pounding in the stillness. Together we conducted a seance, hoping to communicate with whatever was haunting me. And in that moment, we were no longer just inhabitants of the physical world. We were explorers, daring to venture into the realm of the unseen, the unexplained, the paranormal. That, my friends, is where I'll leave you for now. From the moment I moved into that old house on Willow Street, life began to feel more like a horror movie than a reality. It wasn't just the inexplicable whispers, the doors that slammed shut on their own, or even the unsettling figure that haunted my dreams. It was the feeling of being watched, the sense of an unseen presence that lingered long after the sun had set. The paranormal expert I reached out to was just as baffled as I was. Despite their extensive knowledge and experience, they couldn't make sense of what was happening. We conducted a seance in an attempt to communicate with the entity haunting my home, but instead of answers, we were only left with more questions. In the dead of night, the whispers grew louder, the shadows seemed darker, and the figure that lurked in my dreams grew closer. It was a terrifying experience that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. Despite the fear, I was determined to uncover the truth. But sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, more chilling than any ghost story. It became clear that whatever was happening in my home was not of this world. It was something beyond our understanding, something that defied the laws of nature. I wish I could tell you that I found answers, that I discovered what was haunting me and put an end to the nightmares. But the truth is, I'm still searching. I'm still trying to understand what happened in that house, why it chose me. And while I might not have all the answers, I do have a warning. We are not alone. There are forces out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting to make their presence known. They are not bound by the laws of our world, and they are not to be taken lightly. So, I urge you, be careful. Be aware of your surroundings, and don't ignore the signs. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't dismiss the whispers, the cold chills, the feeling of being watched. These are not just figments of your imagination. They are warnings, signs of something more sinister. And with that, I'll leave you with one final thought. There is more to this world than meets the eye. There are mysteries waiting to be discovered, truths waiting to be uncovered. But remember, not all truths are meant to be known. Some things are better left in the shadows, hidden from our understanding. The events that unfolded in that house on Willow Street left an indelible mark on me. And to this day, I can't explain what happened. But one thing is certain. There are things in this world that defy explanation. Things that lurk in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. Until next time, stay safe out there. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.